Okay, we are in Ein Yaakov. Please subscribe to this channel. Give it a thumbs up. Hit the bell. You got a whole bunch of stuff you can do. That way you can be sure that you also get every video that goes up and you get it first. And you don't have to wait for me to put it onto Facebook. Okay. You're asking about the coin. It says that Rav said that Yaakov fixed a coin. He established a coin, a new coin for the city, and you're asking, does that mean a real coin? That's the question.
A single one of an existing currency, or to establish a currency?
It seems that they were establishing a currency. That would be what would make that town famous. So that's why that's what he said here. Yeah, so coins would often bear an imprint distinct to that particular city, such as its seal. Thus, the words Pnei Ir, the face of the city, hint at the notion that the way that Yaakov acted graciously to the city was by minting a new coin. The creation of the new currency was of substantial benefit for the city, for previously the people had used the coins of other kingdoms. Now that the city had its own coins, its political stature and prestige was increased. That's why when Israel was reestablished in 1948, I believe that's when they did it. They reestablished the shekel, and they didn't have just the British coinage of the what do they have? The liter, pound. The pound. They have the pound, so they got rid of the pound.
Well, their system has also changed since 1948.
They still call it a pound, though.
Yeah, but there's all sorts of other things.
Whose system, by the way?
The British one.
Okay.
They have, I don't know, coins that went away already.
Okay, but I'm just saying, but when we do a Susan B. Anthony dollar, or $2, whatever it was, we had Susan B. Anthony dollar, or we had the $2 bill. That was also a new coinage that, but it didn't make the city any better, as it were. But if I would have special coinage for South Bend, well, Mayor Pete would be all excited about it, I'm sure. And he'd say, this is a new inauguration, we're going to have an annual whatever. Okay, but people would get excited because we have a new thing, which is why in 1976, for the bicentennial, if you remember, all the quarters had. You weren't around. You know of them, okay?
Well, they're still in the States.
Okay, but they had the different states, right? So it's all the 50 states.
Plus territory.
Right. 50, I feel like all the presidents. 52. No, it's 52 cards in the deck. Okay, 50 states and then the territory. So we had those coins coming out. So when the coins came out, the states felt very good for that because they were finally recognized. Okay, so it gave them some stature, as it were. And so that's what he was saying there. So yeah, I think what he's talking about is a real coin. It's for them, special for them. Okay, so the Gemara says, Amar, therefore, thus Rav Shimon said to the communal leaders, remember, Rav Shimon is the one who he was saved, so he feels he has to offer something to the city, just like Yaakov did. And the reason he's offering, again, just remind ourselves, is because he felt that since a miracle happened for him, some of his spiritual capital was used up. Again, whether or not that's true, who knows? But he felt that way, so he wants to reassure himself that he's going to do something for the city, which when he does it, people are going to benefit from it. He's not going to get any major benefit from it. In other words, he may get a plaque, but that's about all he's going to get. But when people would, for instance, here, when Mr. Schottenstein, gave the Talmud, when he paid for the Talmud, while he personally doesn't, maybe he got a free set, I don't know, but while he personally doesn't get that much from it, imagine when around the world, people are using his Gemaras, he's getting a lot of credit for that in the spiritual world. Again, in the physical world, he's not getting anything from it. I don't think he's getting a dime from ArtScroll. We've just used the name. As a matter of fact, he had to pay for that. Okay, so I can't imagine he's getting a cutback. Not a cutback, a kickback from that. If he is, good luck to him. If he's getting a kickback, good luck to him. But I don't think he is. But it's. But when we open the Gemara and we use it, That's what he's getting credit for. So the same thing with Rav Shimon. So that's why he says, so he said, Ika milta de baila tukune, is there something that needs to be improved? So Amrulay, they replied to him, Ika duchte, ditle safek tuma. So there's a certain place in the vicinity that has a questionable status of regarding tuma. And the itluhu sa'ara la kohanim la kufe. And it is difficult for the kohanim to circumvent the area. Now the kohanim cannot go into a place which has which is filled with tumah. So he said he explains there was a main thoroughfare in the town in which it was uncertain whether corpses had been buried there.
Nothing. I just wanted to see. When was this book printed?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, all right, go ahead.
And if there had been precisely where the graves may have been located. Thus, Kohanim, who are not permitted to contract tumah from a corpse, had to avoid the entire thoroughfare and take a long circuitous route instead. Okay, so, yeah.
So is this a town built, and then they figured out we may have just built it over a grave? Or were people buried in the streets on purpose?
Nobody's buried on purpose on the street. What happened was they built it, they probably dug a little, found a corpse, and said, So, or it could be another thing. And this again it happened in Israel when in 1948, again when Israel became a state. So, it was reestablished as a Jewish state, to be more specific with that statement. The Arabs had Jerusalem, the parts of Jerusalem, and mostly the Mount of Olives. Mount of Olives was a grave site. Okay, what they did was the Arabs plowed that over to destroy the graveyard. Okay, so we don't know where anything is. Now, today, I don't know what they've done with Mount Olives. I don't think they made it a grave site. But Kohanim can't go on it because they don't know where the graves, where the bodies are. They didn't exhume the bodies; they just plowed it over. So that's part of the problem. When you're burying people, and by the way, if you go across America, and you go to some churches, or the backyards of those churches, again, you have dead bodies there. Not that they didn't kill them, but they died. And they went there. You have other places where there are grave sites where nobody knows about because they're unmarked. So they know they were, but they didn't mark them. Fine. So that's what happened here. We know that they were corpses. They were uncertain. Actually, they were uncertain whether corpses were buried there or not. So what they did was the area became off limits to the Kohanim. They couldn't go there because of a doubt. A Kohen can't go into a place where they're not sure if there is Tumah. Okay? Yeah.
Such as the bottom of the ocean, are you allowed to take an ocean cruise? There are all sorts of bodies that, been buried at sea, accidents, whatever.
Yeah.
Everywhere else.
So it's a great question. So the answer is yes. Because what's no. First of all, once the body is dissolved, we don't have to worry about it anymore anyway. Once it goes back.
How long does that take?
I'm not sure. But that would be one thing. Then the second thing is, let's say that there is a separation of one tefach.
Ooh.
Tefach, which is about
measure?
Approximately 3.5 to 4 inches. If there is a gap of 3.5 to 4 inches between the body and the top, so there's that much air between the body and the top, then his spiritual impurities cannot traverse the heights. It's only when it's less than that nothing can stop it. Okay, so I shouldn't say nothing, but for the most part, nothing stops it, and then it can go straight up. So when you have a boat, what do you have? You have a boat, and then that's the bottom of the boat, and then before you get to the top, you have unless you're in a rowboat, you have you certainly have this much air. So that would be something going on there too. So you'd have a cushion there, which is why you could definitely go on that. Secondly is, since the ocean is not a place where people normally bury their dead. We don't have to be suspect for that. The only time you would maybe have a question would be the Bermuda Triangle. Since certain people have disappeared there, and maybe you could argue that there's something going on there.
Well, that's why I asked how long it takes, because they keep talking on Big Bang Theory, that show about something with Schrodinger's cat, that you have to assume he's dead or for how long. It's anyway.
I'm not an expert on Big Bang theories.
Yeah. You can travel on water if there's.
Yeah, no. Again, because you have that separation, and it's not normally to be there. Here, there was a suspicion because people do bury on the roads, or they bury wherever they are. Or again, if I don't remember, I bury it, and now I plow the field, and then I mess it all up. Yeah. So that's the problem. You have to. Okay, so really, that's what they were saying. We have a question. So Rev Shimon ben Yochai took it upon himself the task of making the area accessible to Kohanim, because if we could do that, that would be a big thing for the town. So Rev Shimon said, is there someone here who knows that a presumption of tahara had been established here at one time? And he says, does anyone remember a time when people used to treat this area as tahor, as spiritually clean, that the Kohanim could walk over it? That they knew no one was buried in that vicinity? So Rashi explains that Rav Shimon was seeking to ascertain that the thoroughfare had not actually been an established cemetery. If it had been, he would have been forbidden to exhume the graves, and nothing could be done for the Kohanim. Although ultimately he did not exhume them, it had been his intention to do so at this point. So he figured, okay, let's make this area good. Let's find out, does anybody know if this was ever tahor? So Amalei Husaba, and certainly a certain elderly person replied to him, Kan Kitzetz ben Zakkai Tormasei Truma. I remember that here in this very place, Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai used to cut lupines of teruma. Thus, we learn from that, at that time it was evidently considered a tahor area. So what did he do? He planted lupines there using seedlings of teruma, of, how do you say teruma? Separated things that are for Kohanim. They have to only be, that have to be pure, tahor. And then he and then harvest them later. Truma must be kept tahor, and moreover, Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai himself was a Kohen and could not enter a Tamei area. So thus it is clear that Rav Yochanan considered the entire area tahor. Rav Shimon was therefore satisfied that the thoroughfare had never been an established cemetery. The only potential source of tuma was therefore a corpse that may possibly have been temporarily placed there and later forgotten subsequent to Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai's time. And if that corpse could be found, it would be permitted to move it. Okay, so normally we cannot move a corpse, right? If you bury somebody, normally that's done. You can't exhume him. The only times you could exhume him would be to bring him or her to Eretz Israel, to the land of Israel. That would be one thing. Or if there's going to be a place of desecration, all these things, something like that.
In its current location.
Right, where it is currently. But one is not allowed to do it is, let's say you have a Jewish, let me just finish. Let's say you have a Jewish cemetery. This happened actually when I was in Moncton. Somebody wanted to exhume a body that was buried for over 50 years. And they wanted to move it to where they were presently, or where the family was presently living. To which I said, no, not happening. If you want to move it to Israel, that would be one thing, and you wouldn't do it 50 years later, though. 50 years later, there's probably nothing left that you can move. So it's, but I didn't go with that. I just said it's not proper. So, and they didn't do it. They actually didn't even fight me on it, which was amazing. But, and I was a young rabbi in those days, so I'm surprised they didn't try to fight me. But nonetheless, that would be an example where you cannot move it. Your question is?
One example of the second thing, you can exhume a body was being moved to Israel, and if it's desecration of the ground, what does desecration involve? Like they're going to destroy the grave sites?
Yeah, something like that. They're going to destroy it. Or it could be that he was buried in the wrong cemetery. let's say he was buried in a non-Jewish cemetery, he should be buried in a Jewish cemetery. So all these things. So if there's a good reason to move the body, then you move it. Otherwise, you do not. So that was Rav Shimon's situation there. So I have to know if I can exhume. Let's say there is a body. I have to know if I can. Now the case of can would be I want to bury him temporarily because I have to bury the person, but with the intent that I'm going to move him later when I get the chance. Okay, that if you have that in mind, that may be a possibility also of doing it. Okay, so now Avid Ihu Namihachi. So Rav Shimon also did the same thing. Kol Heiche Dahave Kashe. He traversed the entire area, and everywhere that the ground was hard, Tahare, he pronounced Tahor. Kol Heiche Dahave Rafe, and everywhere the ground was soft, Tzaine, he marked off as Tame. So what's going on there? Okay, so he said that Rashi explains that this means that Rav Shimon too made use of lupines. He cut these fruits and cast them about the area, and miraculously the corpse that was buried rose in the ground, shifting the earth above it. As the Gemara proceeds to explain, Rav Shimon then surveyed the area, marked off the section where the ground seemed especially soft and freshly moved. The precise location of the grave was thus identified, and the Kohanim were therefore free to traverse the area, again avoiding only the localized place of the grave. Okay, so I don't know how that works, but he apparently could do that. And so then the Kohen could once again go in. They simply had to avoid the locations marked as tummy. So Rav Shimon did, however, encounter some criticism of his efforts. Okay, so here he found this story out that Rav Shimon ben Zakkai had Yochanan ben Zakkai had cut the lupines, and so he took those lupines. He used them as a talisman, if nothing else, I guess, to show where the body was. So, and he marked off. So now what happens? Amru Hasava. So afterwards, that same elderly person who informed Rav Shimon of the prior status of the area said, sardonically, Tihar bar Yochai ber Kavarot. Oh, look, Ben Yochai has made a cemetery tahor. Baruch Hashem. He's being very sarcastic here. Okay. So he said he cast aspersion. Rav Shimon's actions claim that Rav Shimon had pronounced tahor an area that's actually riddled with graves. Right? Whenever you're going to, the biggest thing that the rabbis run into is people ask the rabbis to do something. Then when the rabbis find a way to get it done, somebody always has to deride the rabbis for getting it done. That's just the simple methodology. I'll give an example. Right? I'll give you one example.
No good deed goes unpunished.
Correct. The best thing is when the rabbi, on Pesach, we have to get rid of our chametz. We have to either eat it or we have to destroy it. That's our choices.
Is selling an option?
Well, let me get there. We have to either eat it or destroy it. Okay, we can't own it. Bottom line, we can't own it. So somebody came to the rabbis, and this is probably how everything works. Somebody came to the rabbis and said, Rabbi, I have a store. What, are you crazy? I can't sell everything. I'm going to lose money like that. I can't burn it. I can't eat it. Nobody's buying it. Figure out some way that I can keep this stuff and sell it afterwards. So the rabbis came up after scratching their beard, pulling their beards a couple of thousand times. They came up with selling your chametz. Great. Okay. So they sold the chametz and the person was saved. All businesses were saved. And great. So what happens? Now people, they when you want to tell them sell the chametz, they say, oh, sell the chametz. Oh, that's like you wink your eye and you bet, it's fake. What am I selling my chametz for? I still own it, blah, blah, blah. And so they do.
I used to think if I took my glasses off, nobody could see me.
There you go. Oh, right. So that's what people do. So they deride the rabbis for figuring out how to help them. Now they make fun of this whole thing, and they don't see the seriousness of the need for selling the chametz, and as a result, many people do not sell their chametz, and they transgress the biblical injunction of having chametz during Pesach.
What is that punishment? What is the...
During Pesach, you get cut off from the Jewish people, which means one of possibility of three things: either one will die childless, one's children will die in their lifetime, or they will die before their time. Any one of those three things.
8 days.
Oh, but you still got karas. You still got cut off from the Jewish people because you did something.
That's not a temporary. Those three things are not temporary. Well, it couldn't be.
Correct.
Temporary.
It's not temporary, right?
Yeah.
Death isn't temporary. Right. So it's right. So that's what karas means. That's what it means that you get cut off from the Jewish people. So if you own it during that time, you're in trouble. You also transgress a positive injunction. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. So the rabbis tried to get you out of that situation. Wait, that's only if you eat, not if you own. I'm sorry. If you own it, you have a pause. Sorry, I'm going to say that again. If you eat chametz during Pesach, then you get cut off from the Jewish people. If you just own it, you don't get cut off. You're transgressing a positive commandment, not a negative. You're transgressing a negative commandment, so you're going to be punished for that. It's not that punishment. You have to deal with it, but that's what it is. But people, my point is, people are ingesting chametz because they don't sell what they have, and they don't look at it. They don't think about it. They all think it only means bread. It doesn't mean bread. It means any leavened product that you're going to ingest. So you have problems. I know that in the Reform movement, that at their Sidorim, while they will have matzah on the table, they eat bread.
Who is this?
The Reform Jews. I've heard that from countless people, including their rabbis, that they will have bread on the table for those who don't like matzah. So it's just the show of it. Now, if the Reform really don't have that, I apologize. But the rabbis have told me they do. So I'm not sure who to believe at that point. I'm not saying every Reform Jew does that. I'm just saying that, by the way, again, most people who are not religious would, and I would use religion for all four movements there. For those who don't have any feel towards religion, even if they go to a Seder, they will still have their breads. That I know. That's not a hard thing. It's only when you're religious, maybe you won't have it. But most people will have it. So they are being cut off, all because people made, I'm suggesting, all because people made fun of this whole system of selling and selling. But that's really what it is.
What does the rabbi to do with it, by the way, during those
The
days?
rabbis figured out how to do this.
Yeah, so the congregants will, for $1, you sign a contract of some kind, you're transferring ownership. So what's the rabbi supposed to do with it during those days?
No, the rabbi sells it. You're hiring the rabbi as the lawyer, right? He's the middleman. So you don't want to go to the goy, to the non-Jew, and say, okay, I want to sell you, because you don't know how to sell it properly. So a lot to the sale. So what happens is you go to your expert, you go to your lawyer, and say, make sure that all the dots are, all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, and make sure it's a real sale, because I don't want to deal with it. So then that's what the rabbi's job becomes.
He's the representative.
Right. So he represents, right?
All right, so he does not take ownership.
He or she, by the way.
Yeah, he doesn't take ownership of it.
Right. Anybody could do it as long as you know what you're doing. No, they never take ownership. That's why I used to sell chametz for people. They said, so where should I bring it? I said, leave it in your home. Don't bring it to me. I don't need it.
The whole idea of selling it is
Right.
you don't have to take it out.
Right. So what happens is what you should you should keep it in a certain place that you're not going to touch it because it's no longer yours. When I was in Bangor, so I worked it out with the federal judge. He was one of my congregants, and that the contract was 100% legally binding. So if you sold with me, then if you would, God forbid, take that stuff, not only are you transgressing the biblical injunction of eating chametz, but you're also transgressing the biblical injunction of stealing. You would have been stealing. It would have been total theft because you don't own it anymore. And it's the non-Jews. Whoever the non-Jew was, the non-Jew owned it, not you. So you could not eat it. You'd be transgressing, stealing, eating mud, eating this stuff. It wouldn't be a good situation.
And to make what you call legally binding, does that then need to cite as precedent civil law as well as religious law?
Yes, it's totally civil. It's totally civil. It's not even religious.
It would be moot. Otherwise, who would care? It's a religious thing.
No, but this is a civil law. The civil law. You had to do it civilly. It had to be something that would be understood by the courts as legally binding.
I always thought that right before Yom Kippur we should be able to sell our sins.
No, we can't do that. We won't get rid of them. You don't want to sell them. You don't make profit off them. Yeah.
So I have two questions.
Yes.
Firstly, on the grave thing.
On the grape?
On the grave thing.
Grave.
They've established by saying that some rabbi came in and he was planting lupine, so obviously he was
Well, Rev Yochanan ben Zakkai was a Kohen who was using Truma. And so if he's going to, Truma has to be kept spiritually clean. Right. So that's the precedent that this place was not always a cemetery.
Right. So,
good.
So and like you said before, if it's not always a cemetery, then if it's not an established cemetery, then you can dig things up and move it out of the way.
Right.
So why didn't they just plow the road? Because people were saying this is entire place is a cemetery. You just made a cemetery top of the road, good for you. But why don't just plow the road, dig it all up, as best as dig it down 6 feet if you need to, and then because that would be a proper like social.
You're not allowed to destroy a body.
Custom.
No.
You're not allowed to destroy a body.
Not destroy the road, like dig the road up looking for bodies.
It would take years.
No.
You have to respectfully.
Why? Go ahead.
I'm saying you have to respectfully. Right. So and it's a lot of money to the place to dig up a whole place.
Right.
Okay, so you wouldn't want to do that. Besides, you don't dig down we wouldn't go 6 feet down anyway. But assuming you would, why would you want to spend that much money? Again, you're doing it very slowly. Think about how an archaeological dig, how long that takes. It takes years.
Right.
So why would you want to do that? Instead, you use some other methodology to find out if there's going to be a body there. And the worst thing is if I use a plow or some other way to dig up the ground. So one of the bones can be moved without me seeing it, and now I've destroyed the whole area. So I don't know anything else. That's called the Bay Pros, by the way. It's called the Bay Pros. What I did was when I plowed the thing over, if there's bones there, and I didn't realize it, I just moved it. But then I find out, there was a dead body there. I've created a whole area that is untouchable. Right. Yeah. I contaminated the crime scene, if you will. So it's called the Bay Pros. Peiresh Samach. So I can't do anything there anymore. Now I'm totally lost.
Yeah, but you know what? Why? In other words, haven't more difficult problems been solved? In other words, isn't there a way of anointing that land specifically because there have been bodies there that you make it holy, or you?
To do what first?
I don't know.
No, in other words, again, you're trying to make it so that it's in the middle of town, let's say. So you want to make it so everybody can traverse the area. Including Kohanim. Yeah, so in order to do that, if you're going to make that, the only way to do that would be to exhume all dead bodies. The only way to do that would be to exhume that. So now, either that or make them walk around. So until now, they've been walking around.
Why wouldn't that be seen as an even holier site because there have been bodies? Do you know?
Well, we don't consider where people are buried to be holy. That's the exact opposite, because death is spiritual impurity. That is the definition of spiritual impurity. What makes us pure is we're living. We are, at this point, we are spiritually well.
Are the souls of the dead pure or impure?
The souls of the dead are going to heaven, or they're in heaven, if you will. The body is the only thing that's left. So the soul is pure, the body is not.
Forever.
Well, until it dissolves, right?
Yeah, but the soul and that.
Soul was always pure. Soul was always pure.
But I thought that we've talked about. I know very well that we've talked about. We are stewards of our bodies, really. Only that the body belongs to God.
Correct. But what makes the body pure, if you will, is the infusion of the soul. Because when we have the soul, so we have to take care of our body and make sure that it doesn't become impure with all these impurities that we can get. So we want to protect that. But that's once the soul removes from us, then the body becomes an empty shell. An empty shell. Death is the definition of spiritual impurity.
There's a difference between impurity, which is where the needle crosses the line, and a state that, like the Navy will use, that something has simply been decommissioned. It doesn't make it sinful. It simply means decommissioned.
No. You look. Oh, that's where you're coming from. Okay.
Well, not
The spiritual
sinful,
impurities aren't sinful. It's just a state.
I don't mean sinful. I mean impure.
Again, the definition of impure.
Why can't it just be like non-commissioned?
No, because I'm saying but I'm saying the definition of spiritual impurity is death. That is the definition. So you're looking at the word tuma, which is, we're translating as spiritual impurity, but that is the definition of death. Death is tuma.
All right, so that's the part that gets the dust to dust.
Okay, and once it totally dissolves, then the tuma, as it were, disappears. But that's going to be a very, very long time in the future. You can have decomposition, which is not that long in the future. That doesn't take that long, actually, to decompose, but or to start the decomposing.
You know, there's holes underneath. There's holes in the vault.
Yeah.
There's holes in the casket. Underneath.
Correct. Again, the decomposition doesn't take long, but that'll take days, a couple of days to start, and so you get the smell. But by the time you're totally decomposed, that could take years. That could take hundreds. I think 50 to 100 years. Yeah.
What was it? Oh yeah. What if your bones turn to fossils?
Oh, why?
If you become fossilized,
Yeah.
How long does that take?
it could be a problem.
Right.
Could be a bigger problem.
Because he said like everything would have to completely change
Correct.
between the bones.
Could be a big problem. If you fossilize, it could be that.
Where did that?
Well, certainly what it would do is it would make the place tamei forever.
Right.
There's no question about that. If there's still bones there, again, if it's stuck on a rock, like we want to say there's a fossilized rock, that doesn't become tamei anymore. You're not going to say that the rock is tamei.
Right.
But if it's going to take a long time. Ultimately, it's supposed to decompose, right?
Right.
So if something is stopping decomposition, you could have a problem. Like a mummification.
Right.
That's always going to be tamei, which is why to this very day, if we hold that tuma is past, well, you hold by tuma's ohel, so the tuma of the tent. So that's why a kohen cannot go into the museum, or the room of the museum that has the mummies in there to this very day. And we're talking about thousands of years ago. Okay? That's good? Okay? So,
You couldn't have gone to see the King Tut music?
No.
Traveling thing?
No, unless, again, the only way you could do that would be if they would encase, and that they may have done this, I don't know. If they would, I assume they did, but in case
It has to be, you can't touch air.
Okay, so again, there would have to be this much space between the mummy to the top, airspace. If that would be the case, then possibly you could go in there. You have to know everything. I don't know the case of the mummy. Let me just finish this up. Okay, so I guess he was denigrating the rabbi, and he says, so Amalo, Reb Shimon ben Yochai replied to him, Ilmale lo hayiti imanu. Had you not been here with us to see about this task, v'filu hayita imanu lo nimdeti imanu, or even had been with us but had not been counted among us as one of those who agreed to this course of action, yafe ata omer, then what you're saying would have been fine. Achshav shayita imanu, but now that you are with us, mimnete imanu, and you were counted among us, when you have said what you have said has terrible consequences. Yomru, hearing your words, people will say, Zonot mefarchasot zuetzo, even harlots braid one another's hair. Should Torah scholars not certainly be as respectful to one another? Yahav be'ene, Rav Shimon then his eyes upon him. nafshe, and he perished. In other words, the guy died. Okay, you said something bad to me, I'm going to take it out on you. Okay. So he says about the harlot, he says, even though a harlot hates her competitor, she will still extend her favor and braid her hair, for it is actually in her own self-interest that her competitor appears beautiful. Indeed, if all the harlots in the area are enticing, the price that they can collectively demand for their services remains high. Rav Shimon's point was that the elder who condemned his action violated even this most basic rule of courtesy. People would view his condemnation of Rav Shimon as a public bickering between two scholars, and the general prestige of Torah scholarship would suffer a great blow. Publicly disparaging a Torah scholar is seen as a grave crime, deserving even death, which is why he could kill him that way. Okay, so now Nafak the Shuka. Later, Rav Shimon went out to the marketplace. Chazye the Yehuda ben Gerim. There he saw Yehuda ben Gerim. Remember him? Yehuda ben Gerim, he's the one who got him in trouble. Right? The person whose words originally brought about the decree that threatened Rav Shimon's life. Amar, Rav Shimon said, Adayin yesh l'zeh ba'olam? Oh, is this one still in the world? He's not anymore. Not the bo'enav. He says, as upon him, Asahu gal shel atzamot, and he turned him into a heap of bones. Okay, now, there's two ways to look at this. He's going to tell you. The expression, where is it? The expression denotes a corpse whose flesh had rotted away, leaving only the bones. As noted earlier, Rashi understands that when Yehuda ben Gerim repeated Rav Shimon's words, his intent was not malicious. Indeed, Tosfot suggests that Yehuda ben Gerim was, in fact, a Tana of a significant stature. Nevertheless, his words were deemed a slander, and it was for this that he was now punished. Others, though, assert that Rabbi Yehuda ben Gerim was not a sage at all. Rather, he was a malevolent person who had reported Rav Shimon's words directly to the Roman authorities seeking to harm him. So, bottom line is he dies based on this. Now, some people may want to argue that he didn't really die. What he did was he was greatly embarrassed. But the Gemara seems to be saying that, no, he died. That was the end of him. Okay, we'll have to stop there.
What kind of supernatural power did he have that he could gaze somebody to death?
This seems to be a power that the rabbis had. That when they would look at you, if they would set their eye upon you, then Hashem would answer them and kill them.
That's not what you call the evil eye.
No. Well,
I don't know. It's not
it could be an evil eye. Again, Hashem is, what happens is if a Talmud Chacham is looking at a person that way, he's forcing the heavenly tribunal to pay attention and now press the charges against this person. And if that person is a tzaddik, he doesn't die. If he's not a tzaddik, he does die. So that seems to be what's going on.